Have you ever felt that strange silence when someone you love stops reaching out the way they used to? As we grow older, many of us notice that the calls from our children aren't as frequent. The visits come less often, and the closeness we once shared begins to fade. It's not that they don't love us, but life moves fast for them. They are busy with their families, their work, and their responsibilities. Still, for parents who have given their best years raising and supporting their children, that quiet space can feel heavy. I want you to know, you're not alone in feeling this. So many parents across the U.S. in their 60s, 70s, and 80s carry the same questions in their hearts. Why don't they call more? Do they still think of me? It's a shared experience, one that brings comfort when we realize others understand this journey too. In today's video, we're going to talk about what really happens inside your children's hearts when you step back and stop reaching first. It's not just about silence, it's about emotions they rarely show. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Share your state in the comments below so we can see how many of us are walking this path together. Stage 1. The shock of absence. When you've been the one who always reached out, always picked up the phone, always checked in first, your children grow used to that rhythm. They expect it without even realizing it. So when the pattern suddenly changes, when the calls and messages don't come from you, it doesn't just slip by unnoticed, it surprises them. At first, they brush it off. Mom's probably busy today. Dad will check in tomorrow. They believe it's just a small delay, nothing permanent. Because, in their mind, you've always been there, steady as a clock, keeping that connection alive. But as the days go by, the quiet stretches longer, and something begins to stir inside them. They may not show it, and they may never admit it, but a subtle uneasiness takes hold. They check their phone at night, scrolling through old messages, glancing at family photos, waiting for that familiar buzz that never comes. It's not panic they would announce out loud, but it is a quiet discomfort. It's like watching a movie that suddenly cuts to black before the ending. You're left hanging, unsure of what comes next. This is the very first stage, the shock of your absence. It doesn't make them angry right away, and it doesn't lead to regret immediately. Instead, it plants a seed of confusion. They wonder, why haven't they called? Did something happen? Are they upset with me? That wondering grows, even if they cover it with busyness. Deep down, your silence leaves a mark, and they start to notice that life doesn't feel quite the same without your steady voice keeping things connected. Stage 2. When pride meets silence. As more days pass without hearing from you, something deeper begins to stir inside your children. At first, they told themselves you were just busy, that the call would come soon, the way it always has. But when the silence lingers, their pride starts to step in. Pride is a tricky thing. It whispers, "Don't be the one to reach out. They'll call eventually. They always do." For years, they may have leaned on your effort. You were the one who reminded them of birthdays, who asked how their day was, who checked in when they seemed quiet. That steady care became something they didn't even question. It was always there. But now, with your silence, their pride feels challenged. They don't want to admit that they miss your voice. They don't want to be the first to dial your number, because in their mind, that's always been your role. So what do they do instead? They look for smaller ways to get your attention without fully reaching out. Maybe they post a picture they think will make you smile. Maybe they share a memory or write something online, hoping you'll see it. It's their way of testing the waters, seeking a reaction, but without openly asking for it. And when no call, no message, no little response comes back from you, the silence suddenly feels heavier. This is the stage where ego collides with reality. Your children start realizing that the comfort of always having you there is not guaranteed anymore. That pride, which once made them feel secure, now feels shaky. And though they may keep quiet, deep inside they are unsettled by the shift. Stage 3. Curiosity turns into restlessness. After pride wrestles with silence for a while, something else begins to take over. Curiosity. Your children may not be calling, but they're paying closer attention than you realize. They start checking your social media, scrolling through your photos, looking for signs of what you're doing. Are you active? Are you happy? Are you posting but not reaching out to me? These questions circle in their minds, and the quiet starts to itch at them. At first, they convince themselves it's just curiosity. I just want to see if mom's okay. I just want to check what dad's been up to. But curiosity has a way of growing into restlessness, and restlessness is hard to ignore. It makes them check more often. It makes them replay your last conversations, searching for clues. Did I miss something? Were they trying to tell me something I didn't hear? This stage is uncomfortable for them because your silence doesn't give answers. It gives them space to think, to reflect, and sometimes to worry. And when the mind doesn't have answers, it fills in the blanks with stories. They may start imagining reasons for your quiet that aren't even true. Maybe they're upset with me. Maybe they don't need me anymore. Maybe I did something wrong. The truth is, you haven't disappeared. You've simply stepped back. But for your children, that step back creates a storm inside them. Because when the one who always reached out no longer does, it forces them to face a truth they weren't expecting. That your attention, your care, your steady love, it wasn't something owed, it was freely given. And now in your stillness, they begin to feel just how much they depended on it. Stage 4. The weight of comparison. As the restlessness grows, your children begin to compare. They don't just compare you to other people. They start comparing the you of the past to the you of today. They remember the parent who always called first, who apologized first, who showed up even when it wasn't easy. That version of you gave without limits, poured love without asking much in return. But now they see someone different, someone calm, steady, and strong, but no longer chasing. This contrast unsettles them. At first, they may try to dismiss it. Mom's just busy. Dad's probably tired. But deep down, they notice the difference. Your silence doesn't feel like anger, it feels like restraint. And that is harder for them to process. It tells them you're not waiting by the phone anymore. You're not circling their world the way you used to. Instead, you've pulled your energy back into your own life. That shift has weight. It makes them think about how they may have taken your presence for granted. They start to feel quiet regrets, the kind they don't say out loud. Maybe they even type out a message and delete it. Maybe they think about calling, but stop themselves. Pride holds them back, but the discomfort keeps growing. The truth is, they feel the absence, not just because you're quiet, but because your quiet reveals something powerful, that you've chosen peace over proving, boundaries over bending, and whether they admit it or not, that comparison stings. They see the difference between who you were when you gave endlessly and who you are now, someone who values themselves enough to step back. Stage 5. When time deepens the silence. At the beginning, your children may have thought your quiet was only temporary, a few days, maybe a week, and things would return to normal. But when days stretch into weeks, and weeks slowly turn into months, the wake of your silence begins to change. What once felt like a pause now starts to feel permanent. Time has a way of speaking louder than words. Every day that passes without a call from you tells them something. That you're not just waiting anymore. You've made a choice. At first, they may convince themselves you're simply busy or need some space, but as the calendar turns and the silence remains, that explanation becomes harder to believe. Deep inside, the realization sets in, you are no longer carrying the responsibility of keeping the connection alive. This stage unsettles them in a new way, because time was always their safety net. They believed there would always be another chance, another day to pick things up where they left off. Now time itself feels like it's slipping away, leaving behind questions they can't easily ignore. Even if they don't say it, they feel the difference. Your silence no longer feels like a moment, it feels like a decision, and that decision forces them to see the relationship from a perspective they never expected, one where you've stepped back and they are left to face what that distance truly means. Stage 6. The first attempts to reconnect. When the weight of time finally sinks in, your children often make small moves to test the waters. They don't always pick up the phone right away. That would feel too direct, too vulnerable. Instead, they choose subtle ways of reaching toward you. Maybe they like a photo of yours online or leave a short comment. Maybe they post something they hope will catch your eye, a family picture, a memory, even a song lyric that carries a hidden meaning. Sometimes they'll send a message that says very little on the surface, but is really a way of asking, "Do I still matter to you?" These gestures might seem small, almost unimportant, but behind them is a very real desire to feel that they haven't lost their place in your world. They are testing whether your silence is firm or if it can be broken with a nudge. It's their way of reaching without admitting they miss you. But when you don't respond in the old familiar way, when you don't jump at the smallest sign, they notice. The quiet you hold becomes more than absence. It becomes strength. It tells them you see their attempts, but you're not slipping back into old patterns. And that unsettles them even more, because it confirms that you've changed. For the first time, the power has shifted. They are the ones watching, waiting, wondering, while you continue to stand calm in your peace. And that calmness speaks to them louder than any words ever could. Stage 7. The power of detachment. This is the stage where your children begin to realize that your silence isn't just a pause. It's a new way of living. What unsettles them most is that your silence doesn't feel bitter or angry. It feels calm. It feels steady. And that calmness shows them something they didn't expect. You've learned to detach. Detachment doesn't mean you've stopped loving. It doesn't mean you've closed your heart. It simply means you're no longer willing to carry the weight of a relationship all on your own. You've stepped back from chasing, from always being the one to bend, and instead, you've chosen peace. That choice creates a strength they cannot ignore. For your children, this is difficult to face. They were used to the version of you who gave endlessly, who filled every gap, who kept the bond alive no matter what. Now they see someone who still cares, but no longer at the expense of their own well-being. And that difference is powerful. In this stage, your children start to sense that your silence isn't temporary, not a strategy, but a reflection of growth. It tells them that you've accepted things as they are, without clinging to what was. You are not waiting, you are not hoping, you are living. That realization unsettles them more than your absence ever could, because it makes them confront a truth. You've found freedom in letting go, and they are left to decide how to respond to that freedom. Stage 8. The echo of what could have been. As your calm detachment becomes clear, your children begin to feel something heavier than curiosity or discomfort. They start to feel the echo of missed opportunities. This isn't always dramatic or loud. Often it shows up in quiet moments. When they scroll through old photos, when a holiday passes without you, when they remember the way your voice used to steady them, regret begins to stir. It's not regret for something specific you said or did. It's deeper. It's about what never happened, the conversations that could have been shared, the visits that never took place, the milestones where you weren't present because they failed to reach out. They begin to play the what-if game. What if I had answered that last call? What if I had told them how much they meant to me? What if I hadn't taken their presence for granted? But what if doesn't change the past, and that's what makes this stage so heavy. For the first time, they realize the future won't look the same. Birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings will feel different without the old rhythm of your presence. What lingers most is not anger, it's a quiet ache, a recognition that something valuable slipped away because they assumed it would always be there. And now, in your silence, they are reminded again and again of what could have been but never was. Stage 9. A parent's victory of peace. By now, your children see something they never expected. You are not waiting for them anymore. You are not sitting by the phone hoping for a call. You're not replaying the past or bending yourself just to keep the connection alive. Instead, you've chosen something far more powerful: peace. This peace doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself. It shows up quietly in the way you live your days. Calmer mornings, stronger boundaries, a heart that feels lighter because it's no longer carrying what others refused to hold. For the first time in a long time, your well-being is in your own hands, and that is a victory. Your children may never say it out loud, but they notice the difference. They can sense that you are grounded, steady, and no longer shaken by whether they reach out or not. And while they might feel regret, what you feel is strength, the kind that comes when you finally choose yourself. This stage is about more than distance. It's about reclaiming your energy, your dignity, and your sense of self. You've proven to yourself that love doesn't mean overgiving, and silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you respect yourself enough to stop chasing, and in that choice, you've won something priceless: inner peace. Stage 10. The legacy of silence. As time goes on, your silence becomes more than a moment. It becomes a message. Your children begin to realize that this quiet has taught them something they never expected. It has shown them the value of your presence, because only in your absence do they truly feel its weight. They remember the comfort you gave, the patience you carried, the way you showed up without fail, and now they can see clearly how rare that was. The legacy of your silence is not anger or punishment, it is teaching. Without saying a word, you've shown that love should be mutual, that respect should flow both ways, and that even as a parent, your energy is not endless. By stepping back, you've reminded them of something they may have overlooked. You are not just mom or dad, you are a person with needs, with feelings, with a right to peace. Even if pride keeps them from saying it, they will carry this awareness with them. It will come to them in small moments: a pause before they speak of you, a heaviness when a memory arises, a quiet thought of, "I should have valued them more." That is the legacy silence leaves behind. And for you, that legacy is freedom. You've chosen not to explain, not to beg, not to defend. Instead, you've chosen to live your later years with dignity, balance, and calm. And in that choice, you've left behind the most powerful lesson your children may ever learn: that peace is not given, it is chosen. Stage 11. The final realization. In the end, what your children come to feel is not just the quiet of your absence, it's the strength of your decision. They see that you didn't walk away out of anger, and you didn't go silent to prove a point. You stepped back because your soul needed rest, because your heart deserved gentleness, and because your peace mattered as much as anyone else's. This realization doesn't always arrive with a big moment. Sometimes it appears late at night, when they scroll through old photos and feel the ache of what's missing. Sometimes it comes during a holiday, when your presence is felt not by being there, but by the emptiness you leave behind. And in those moments they understand, perhaps too late, that your love was never guaranteed, it was a gift. For you, this is not a loss, but a turning point. You've learned that real strength is not in holding on, but in letting go with grace. You've stopped pouring yourself into places that gave little back, and you've begun to protect your own heart with the same care you once gave to everyone else. This is your quiet victory, the victory of peace, of self-respect, of choosing yourself without bitterness. And while your children may never put it into words, they will always carry the echo of that choice, because in your silence they discovered what your presence truly meant. And in your peace, you've shown them the most important truth of all, that love begins with valuing yourself.